Hello everyone, welcome back to the Philosophy Podcast, and today I'd like to talk about colour. This is a very interesting subject, I think. We all experience colour. Everything we see visually is coloured, and we all know what these colours are called. We're taught as a child to call this colour brown, this colour cream, this colour blue. And scientists can tell you that when you and I talk about blue colour, most of us are talking about a particular frequency of light, a range of light frequency, and that literally just means the amount of energy in the light. So if you've ever seen a rainbow, it goes from red to purple, so it goes red, sort of orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, and that's actually the increase in frequency and the increase in energy. And so when scientists can tell us that when most of us say, yeah, that's blue, we're looking at a higher frequency and a higher energy of light photons or light waves. We're not really sure what they are, but we're looking at a higher frequency of them, a higher energy of them, than when we're looking at red, and we would agree that's a red. But what we don't know scientifically is whether you experience the same thing as I do when we see blue. And you don't know whether you experience the same thing I do. I suppose there's some reason to think that perhaps human beings have a very similar colour experience. Some might say. But why? How do we know? We've got no basis for that. It's just an assumption. We're certainly picking up the same information from the physical world as far as we can tell in terms of frequency of light. But we don't know whether somebody's experience of a colour would be even recognisable to us as a colour experience at all. Now, if we could actually experience what they experience, we may not even recognise it as a colour. It might be closer to a smell. From our point of view, it might be something we've never even experienced before. It may be a colour, we might even recognise it as a colour, but we might say, this is not a colour I've ever experienced. I didn't even imagine this colour could be in existence. And it's even possible that we all have absolutely unique colour experiences, because what is clear is that colour doesn't exist out there. The only place where colour exists is in our experience. What exists out there, and this is so difficult in a way because it's such a lifelong illusion that colour exists out there. So it's very difficult at first to really believe this, and I know people who studied philosophy and still believe that colour is out there in the world. But colour is a way that the brain represents light frequency information to itself, and that is it. What we know about the human visual system and how it works from a scientific point of view is that light comes into the eye and it hits a particular type of cell in the eye, the back of the eye in the retina, and that cell has a particular pigment in it, and there are 3 different pigments in most people. One which is sensitive to blue light, one that's sensitive to red light, and one that's sensitive to somewhere in between, I think. So when the photon of the right frequency hits that pigment, it sets off a chemical reaction which sets off an electrical reaction which sends a signal to the brain. And the brain takes all these signals, and from all this information it can work out the colour that's being seen in a particular portion of the visual field, or the frequency of light that's being detected. So, but all this is sent to the brain via basically a digital signalling mechanism, where electrical impulses are sent by these cells saying, oh, I detected one, oh, I detected one, oh, I did as well, oh, I did as well, I didn't. And the brain takes all this information and builds a picture up of the light frequency being received at the eye, on the eyes. And as you know, we can differentiate millions of colours, some of us more than others. Women tend to be better at colour differentiation than men. It's not entirely understood why that is. It could be an evolutionary thing, we don't really know. And colour blindness tends to be more prevalent in men, I think, as well. And there's many different types of colour blindness, some much more common than others. But yeah, so this colours never go into the brain. It's only ever information, essentially, that's being sent to the brain, and the brain takes that information. Now, how's it going to represent it? How does it present that information to itself? How does it? How can it build a picture of the world? Well, the only way it can do that is by somehow representing that information. And the way it does that is what we call colour. And so different fields within our visual field have this different feature from each other. And that's what colour is. It's not out there, it's not out in the real world. Not that we know of. It might be out there as well. Who knows? Because we can never access the real world except through, the real world of light, except through our own visual systems, our own inbuilt visual system. So, and in fact you could never, you could never actually look at the world except through some kind of visual system, some kind of perceptive system. How else can you look at something? And so whatever you could use to look at the world, whether it shows that it's coloured or it's not, it doesn't tell you whether it really is, because it's always going to be filtered through some kind of visual system. And you can't get a camera and take a picture and say, well, look, the camera shows the same thing. Well, no. All the camera's recording is also the frequency data, and then we print it out with a printer that is also sensitive essentially to frequency data, and then we look at the picture and then we say, yeah, look, that's blue. And someone else says, yeah, that's blue. We still don't know whether we're having the same experience. We just know that it was the same frequency of light, same energy of light. And I remember on my philosophy exam, I had the question, the classic question, are colours real? And I've been warned to leave this question well alone because it's a minefield. And even philosophy professors are under this illusion that colours are in the world. Because we all grow up, we all grow up with this illusion, all our language has this illusion built into it. We say all the time, this shirt is blue. We don't say, I experience this shirt as blue. It would be a bit silly if we did, but it's built into our language. We assume that colour is out there. And as I say, even philosophy professors, great philosophers have been under this illusion as well. So I saw this question, but I couldn't resist it. And I remember I wrote something like, right to start with, well, we have to first of all define what we mean by colour, and we have to define what we mean by real. Because just because we only experience them in our own inner world doesn't mean they're not real, does it? They're real. You know, lots of things I experience in my inner world are real, but they're not measurable by science. They're not something objective necessarily. You know, I really prefer chocolate ice cream to vanilla ice cream. I really do, and that is real. But is it measurable by science? Maybe. Is a number real? Is the number 1 real, or the number 2, or the number 582? Is that a real thing? It would seem very strange to say it doesn't exist. You know, it exists, colours exist. So in a sense they're real. So I clarified what I would call, you know, real in one sense, is it exists. In another sense it exists objectively, independently of the mind. And so rather than are colours real, a better question would have been, are colours mind dependent or mind independent? And of course my answer to that would be they're mind dependent, because there's no way that you could ever have a colour experience without a visual system which includes a mind, a conscious mind. So that's a bit of a thought on colours. So let's have a discussion about it. What do you think? Are colours real? Are colours in the mind only? In the world as well? Or can we ever know whether they're in the world as well? Okay, thank you very much. Bye.